Well, Shana Tova, everyone. Boker Tov. It is so wonderful to be together, to join together as a kahal. There is something actually magical and very special about the second day of Rosh Hashanah when we gather together in a more intimate way and sort of can linger on the prayers in a way that perhaps we couldn't yesterday. But there is something very beautiful about this idea of joining together to do it all again in a different way, to hear the beauty of the service, and also to be in each other's presence, joined together in song and prayer and hearing the shofar blast once again. So we are going to turn to page 109. That's page 109. And we're reading from the bottom of the page. I have awakened again, and I give thanks. Before me, the blessing of this day, a feast of choices and possibilities. And the breath within me says, great is your faithfulness. You offer me another chance. You offer me life. This day I am created, to create this day. We turn to we turn to Anim Zmirot.
I make pleasant songs, weave melodies, because my soul belongs to you. בנים זמירות ושירים ארוג, כי אליך נפשי תרוג, כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך נפשי תרוג. נפשי חמדה בצל ידך, לדעת, לדעת כל רסודך, כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך נפשי תרוג, כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך נפשי תרוג.
Thank you, Cantor. That beautiful Ki Elecha always touches my spirit. We turn to page 129 now as a community, 129, and read responsively. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One. Blessed are hands that have touched life. Blessed are hands that have nurtured a child. Blessed are hands that have embraced with love and friendship. Blessed are hands that have planted new seeds. Blessed are hands that have harvested ripe fields. Blessed are hands that have cleaned, washed, mopped, and scrubbed. Blessed are hands that have held pain. Blessed are hands that have become knotty with age. Blessed are hands that are wrinkled and scarred from doing justice. Blessed are hands that hold the promise of the future. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One. Baruch atah Adonai, gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose love for the people Israel is revealed in acts of goodness. We turn now to page 141. We turn to page 141 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadol ve'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malachutei. B'chayechon uve'yomechon uve'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kariv ve'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'alam le'alamei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
We now turn to page 142 and rise together for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue now on page 142 in the English. Source of blessings, our eternal God, your power fills the cosmos, shaping light, creating darkness, making peace, and fashioning all things. Infinite light is preserved in life's treasure house. Lights from the darkness, said God, it was so. We continue on 144. In love, you bring light to the earth and its creatures. Your goodness renews the creation each day. Infinite, varied, and rich are your works, divine artist, all of them wrought with wisdom. The whole earth is teeming with life. Awestruck by the universe, work of your hands, let all life bless you, praise you, and celebrate the beauty of your lights. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizgechu lanu mehera le'oro. May you shine a new light on Zion, and may we soon be privileged to share in that light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of the cosmic lights. We turn to page 147 as we read responsively. I am the blossom pressed in a book, found again after 200 years.
I am the maker, the lover, and the keeper.
When the young girl who starves sits down to a table, she will sit beside me.
I am food on the prisoner's plate.
I am water rushing to the wellhead, filling the pitcher until it spills. I am the patient gardener of the dry and weedy garden. I am the stone step, the latch, and the working hinge.
I am the heart contracted by joy,
the longest hair white before the rest. I am there in the basket of fruit presented to the widow. I am the musk rose opening unattended, the fern on the boggy summit. I am the one whose love overcomes you, already with you when you think to call my name. All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel. Know the oneness at the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to Makor HaChaim. Ki v'shem kodechecha hagadol v'hanora batachnu, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. We have trusted in your great and holy name. Now let us celebrate at last the joy of your salvation. We read together. Bring us in peace from the four corners of the earth. Lead us with upright pride to the land that is ours. For you are a God of miracles and wonders. From all the people of the earth you sought us out and brought us near to your great enduring truth. So with love we acknowledge and proclaim that you are one. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Our praise to you, Adonai. You have singled out your people Israel with love. We turn now to page 150 as we recite the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 152 and 3.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'keshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chetavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We continue on page 163. The voice that redeems us comes from within. Said Rabbi Eliezer Hamodai, consider the courage of Israel. When Moses said to the people in Egypt, arise and go forth, they did not ask, how can we go into the wilderness with no sustenance for the way? They had faith and went forward. The voice that lifts up the lowly, upholds the exhausted, and tells us to put one foot in front of the other. Sometimes it comes from within. We continue with Micha Mocha on page 164.
Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefele. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדייכין אומך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו, אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We continue on page 166. Prayer is a step on which we rise from the self we are to the self we wish to be. Prayer affirms the hope that no reality can crush the aspiration that can never acknowledge defeat. Rabbi Morris Adler. We rise now as we turn to the tefillah on page 166.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Amen. You may be seated. We turn now to Unatana Tokef. This prayer was traditionally ascribed to Rabbi Amnon of Mainz, who lived a life that was a difficult one and challenging. His experience of a life was an experience that was restricted, unable to make choices about his future. And so these words that we read, who shall live and who shall die, are ones that were questions that were hanging over the heads of our community for generations. And when we turn at the end of this reading to the words that we're familiar with, but to return to the right path through prayer and righteous giving, used to be written, we can avoid the harshness of the decree. And there raised many questions about what this might mean. Rightfully, the translators of this Machzor wrote it as transcend the harshness of the decree. Unlike Rabbi Amnon of Mainz, we can live a life of choices. We can confront our world knowing that if we live up to the best within ourselves, perhaps we can then confront whatever hardships might arise in the year to come, knowing that we truly lived, that we truly raised ourselves up to a point in which we were satisfied with the way that we approached our days. There's much that will come in the year ahead that we cannot change. But as we approach it, let us do so as our best and most noble selves. And so on page 174 we read, and so let these words of sanctity transcend to you, or ascend to you, for you are our God and sovereign.
Unatane tokef kedushat hayom ki hu nora ve'ayom uvol tinaseh מלכותך ויקום בחסד כיסך ותשב עליו באמת, אמת, אמת, כי אתה הוא דיין ומוכיח וידע ואין וחותם וסופר ומונה ותזכור כל הנשכחות ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות ומאליו יקרא וכל טעם יד כל אדם בו.
Let us embrace the day and its holiness, for this day is a throne of goodness and power. We read together on 175. When the people of Israel do God's will, they strengthen God's power on high. But when the people of Israel fail to do God's will, they weaken, if one might say it, God's great power on high. So let this day recall your power and ours. Let it remind us of our promises kept and broken, as we remind you of yours. Let this day be a throne of forgiveness, for today we are the accountants of our souls, the navigators of our hearts, seeking wholeness and new direction. And we seek you through signs of your presence in the arc of sacred history. I make this covenant not with you alone, with those who are standing here with us this day, and with those who are not. God of ages past and future, God of this day, as you were with our mothers and fathers, be with us as well. We continue on page 176. And so a great shofar will cry Tikiyah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. We read together. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. We turn to page 178.
בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייכתבון בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייכתבון כמה יעברון וכמה יבראון מי יהיה ומי ימות ומי וקיצו ומי לא וקיצו מי ואש ומי ומים מי וחרב ומי וחיה מי ורעב ומי וצמא בראש השנה ייכתבו Tzom Kippur, Yom Tzom Kippur, Yechatemun. Mivarash Umivamegefa Mivachanika Umi Vasakila Berosh Hashana Yikatevun Uviyom Tzom Kippur Uviyom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun Miyanuach Umiyanuach Miyashkit Umiyitoraf Miyishalev Umiyityaser Miyeani Umiyashir Miyushpal Umiyarum Berosh Hashana Yikatevun Uviyom Tzom Kippur Uviyom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun Berosh Hashana Yikatevun Uviyom Tzom Kippur Uviyom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun Uteshuva Utefila Utsedaka Ma'avirin et roa hagizera.
We read together. You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. We continue on page 182. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. We read together. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence unbounded by days and years is everywhere, a glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name, and our name you have linked with yours. Please turn to page 184 and rise for the Kiddusha. We read responsively. We sanctify your name in the world as celestial song sanctifies you in realms beyond our world. In the words of our prophet, holy, holy, holy is the God of heaven's hosts. The fullness of the whole earth is God's glory. God of strength who gives us strength, God of might who gives us might. How magnificent the signs of your being throughout the earth. Blessed is the splendor that shines forth from the eternal. Our God is one, Avinu and Malkeinu, sovereign source of life and liberation, revealing with mercy to all who live. I am Adonai, your God. The eternal shall reign for all time, your God for all generations. Zion, hallelujah. We will teach your greatness, Lidor Vador. from generation to generation and to the end of time. We will affirm your holiness. Our God, your praise shall ever be on our lips, for your power is boundless, sovereign, and holy. You may be seated. We turn now to page 192 as we continue responsively. You and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation. Upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, Adonai will reign eternally, your God Zion for all generations. Hallelujah. You are holy, your name is awe. There is nothing divine beyond you. As the prophet Isaiah taught, the source of all might is exalted through justice, the God of holiness made holy through righteousness. Baruch atah Adonai, HaMelech HaKadosh. Blessed are you, Adonai, holy sovereign. We continue on page 196. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Ya'aleh v'Yavo v'Yagia v'Yareh v'Yeratzeh, v'Yishma v'Yifkek v'Yizacher, Zichronenu uv'fikdonenu. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness. Together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel, may we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love and compassion, for life and for peace on this day of remembrance. Zochrenu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova.
Amen.
Uvogdenu bo livracha.
Amen.
Ve'oshienu bo l'chaim.
Amen.
Eternal our God, remember us.
Amen.
Be mindful of us.
Amen.
And redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing.
Amen.
We continue on page 200 as we read responsively. We are stiff-necked and stubborn. Teach us to bend before you. Convinced we are right, entrenched in our own perspective, we resist your call to repent. Convinced we are self-sufficient, entrenched in the illusion of control, we resist your call to humility. Convinced we can have it all, entrenched in the dream of mastering the world, we resist your call to wake up. Today you summon us out of our arrogance, out of rigidity, fantasy, shallowness, and self-deception. Teach us to bend our knees, to bow our heads before the mystery, to realize our frailty and our finitude. Teach us to make you Melech, sovereign in our life, to align ourselves with your goodness and truth. We would not bow before Pharaoh. We would not bow before the Persian lord. We would not submit to any power on earth or give ourselves to any material thing. But we, the Jewish people, stiff-necked, stubborn to the end, today we bow before you. So joy now to call upon Barbara and Sadie Halpin to step forward as they have the honor of opening up our ark doors for the great Aleinu. And we invite you all here to rise now as we turn to the words and the beauty of this moment to page 282, as together we bow. It's important to remember that no matter what in life, we serve something, each and every one of us. So let us bow our heads to the divine.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'tet gedula le'yotzeh breshit שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Return to God by pursuing justice and right. We continue on page 204, responsively, majestic one who loves justice, you who established equity, you worked righteous judgment for Jacob. Look to your souls, improve your ways and your deeds. Let each of you abandon your evil ways, forsake your unworthy schemes. Arise and see the glory of all being. Open yourselves to the light of God.
Awake, awake, O Zion. Clothe yourself in splendor. Put on your robes of majesty.
Listen well. In silence and stillness is the voice of God.
There was a great and mighty wind, splitting mountains and shattering rocks. But the Eternal was not in the wind. After the wind, an earthquake. But the Eternal was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, fire. But the Eternal was not in the fire. And after the fire, a soft murmuring sound.
Through worthy deeds, bring near the day of unity and goodness, a glimpse of perfection.
Adonai shall reign over all the earth. On that day God shall be one, and God's name shall be one. Listen, Israel, Adonai is our God. Adonai is one.
Blessed are hearts that respond to the majestic music of the shofar. Blessed is the gift of life, the power of renewal that brings us to this day. We turn to page 206 for the calls of the shofar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
תקיעה שברים תרועה תקיעה תקיעה שברים תקיעה תקיעה תרועה תקיעה. You may be seated. Today the world is born anew. This day the whole of creation stands before you to be judged. As we are your children, love us in the way of mothers and fathers. As we are yours in service, guide us by the light of your justice, grace, and holiness. We read together on page 208. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, may our rest on this Shabbat bring you pleasure. Lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness. Teach us to be satisfied and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God, whose truth stands forever. Baruch atah Adonai, melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. Our praise to you, Eternal One, whose power pervades all the earth. You bring holiness to the people of Israel and to this day of remembrance.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu Be'amecha Yisrael Utefilatam Be'ahava Tekabel Beratzon Utehi Leratzon Tamid Avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Kore'av Pnei El Avadecha V'choneinu Shefoch Ruchacha Aleinu V'techezena eineinu B'shuvecha leTzion Berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato Letzion.
We continue on page 210 as we read responsively. Modim anachnu lach, God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever.
Rock and protector of our lives, your saving power endures from age to age.
We thank you and tell the tale of your praise, your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness.
Morning, noon, and night, we call you goodness, for your compassion never ends. We call you mercy, for your love has no limit. We call you hope, now and for all time.
We turn to page 213. Giver of life and all good gifts, grant us also wisdom to use only what we need, courage to trust your bounty, imagination to preserve our resources, determination to deny frivolous excess, and inspiration to sustain through temptation. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise. We turn to page 214.
Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei אבותינו ואמותינו, ברכנו בברכה המשולשת, הכתובה בתורה, הכתובה בתורה. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, כן יהי רצון. יעל אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, כן יהי רצון. יד יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום, כן יהי רצון.
Our God, divine presence, whose path our ancestors walked, bless us now with words first bestowed on Israel in the time of Moses and Aaron, and the threefold blessing given us through Torah that joins our hopes with theirs. May you know God's blessings of shelter and care. May it be so. May you receive the light of God's kindness and grace. May it be so. May you see God's favor and goodness, and may you partake of God's peace. May it be so. We turn now to the prayer for peace on page 216.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו, ברכנו אבינו, כולנו כאחד כאחד באור באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו תורות חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך, בספר חיים ברכה, בספר חיים. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה. ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
In the echoes of these beautiful words of peace, we take this time for Tfilat Halev, for the prayers of our innermost hearts.
ניצור לשוני מרע, ושפתיים לדבר מרמה. ואם קל עלי נפשי תדום, כנפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי, אלוהי. פתח ליבי, פתח ליבי, פתח ליבי, בתורתך, אלוהי נצור לשוני מרע, ושפתיים לדבר מרמה. ואם קל עלי נפשי תדום, כנפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי, אלוהי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, אדוני, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
There's nothing more beautiful than hearing two voices singing together so extraordinarily, particularly those two voices. Thank you, Rabbi Pozlowski, and thank you, Cantor Perper, for the beautiful, beautiful meditation and music. We turn now to page 223, and as we do, it's a joy to call upon Marty and Sandy Thau to step forward as they have the honor of opening up our ark doors. We are going to rise together now as we turn to the words of Avinu Malkeinu. As we think of all that our Father, our ruler, our parent, our ruler, can bring to our lives.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Dever V'Chera Ve'Ra'av Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Kol Tsar Umastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Ve'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Va'anenu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed. Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed. Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
We continue now on page 226. We are the people of the book. Through fire and mud and dust we have borne our scrolls tenderly as a baby swaddled in a blanket, traveling with our words sewn in our clothes and carried on our backs. Let us take up the scroll of Torah and dance with it and touch it and read it out for the mind. Touches the word and makes it light. So does light enter us, and we shine.
En kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'en kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
On page 228, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notze Chesed La'afim, Notze Avon V'Pesha V'Chatal V'Na'akeh. Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the thousandth generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet,
נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע, וחטאה ונקה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, גדול שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח והחוד. כי כה בשמיים ובארץ, כי כה בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ללי, 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 ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו, ותהל ליבנו לעבדך באמת. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה.
You may be seated. The crown of Torah should always be firm on our heads. Never should our people be pulled apart. So we are turning to our Torah portion for this second day of Rosh Hashanah. Within our congregation, it's traditional that we do the days of creation. And when you think about the creative aspects of our world, when we look around and see the beauty that's around us, we also know that it is so important for us to cultivate and be engaged in creativity. 6 days a week, we engage in the challenges of work and toil in our world, but we also rest on the seventh day. You know, it's been raised as a question, why, for example, did we blow the shofar on Shabbat yesterday? And I thought maybe I would take a moment to answer the question, because in a lot of traditional synagogues, they refrained from blowing the shofar. Well, in the Talmud, the prohibition against blowing the shofar on Shabbat is explained that the reason why is not because of the sounding of the shofar, which was commanded, but because somebody might have carried the shofar to the synagogue. And so they didn't want there to be the prohibition against carrying on Shabbat. Lest that be violated, they asked that we refrain from blowing the shofar on Shabbat. So different synagogues have different traditions. In fact, at a congregation that I grew up at, one of the things they did was they actually tied the shofar to the bima to prove to everyone that the shofar wasn't carried to the synagogue so that they could blow the shofar. But you know, this is our modern world. This is the way that Reform Judaism adapts to meet the needs. People are driving to synagogue. We have beautiful music as part of our Shabbat service and part of our Rosh Hashanah service. So offering the blast of the shofar is consistent with our practice. And it's meaningful that we got to hear the shofar blown. And so while we refrain from all kinds of work on Shabbat, we also are encouraged to experience the beauty of a day. And hearing the sounds of the shofar, hearing the sounds of each other is something that is strongly encouraged. And it is always a wonderful thing to be able to join together, to be prepared to join together in prayer and study. It's a joy now to call forward Melanie Franklin, who is going to be our first Torah reader. And it's also a joy to call upon the Franklin family, to call upon Scott and Amber, and we're thinking of Lacey also. I hope that she's watching from where she is, and we're thinking of you, Lacey. Shana Tova to you. And so we are going to turn now to the blessings before our Torah reading.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Bereshit bara Elohim. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ve'haaretz hayitatohu vavohu ve'choshech al pnei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merahefet al pnei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayehi or, vayar Elohim et haor ki tov, vayovdel Elohim ben haor uv ben hachoshech, vayikra Elohim leor yom velachoshech kara laila. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker, yom echad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yesher koach, Melanie, that was wonderful. Can everybody give Melanie a yesher koach? And to Scott and Amber, and also to our cantor, yesher koach, to cantor as well. It's a joy now to call upon our second Torah reader. We're going to call Emily forward, as she has the honor of being our second reader, and to also join together in the Meldman family to call forward Richard and Jennifer and Rachel to stand beside her. Happy New Year.
No, she's not feeling well. Okay, we're ready. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Elohim yehi rakia betoch hamayim, vihi mavdil ben mayim lemayim. Vayas Elohim et harakia, vayavdel ben hamayim asher mitachat larakia, uvein hamayim asher be'al larakia. Vayichen vayigra Elohim larakia shamayim, vihi erev vayehi voker yom sheni.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai
Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yesher koach. That was beautiful. Can we all say Yesher koach to Emily? Very good. There's something absolutely beautiful listening to our young people chanting Torah, chanting about light and the idea of also chanting of separating between the waters of chaos. It's something just extraordinary. When we look at our young people, we see the future. And when we see the two of you, we know that it is a bright one. It's filled with light and filled with goodness. So thank you to all of you. And now we are going to turn to our third aliyah. And it's a joy to call upon Laura Green to be our, Cantor's going to be our Baal Koreh. He's going to lead us in our Torah reading. But Laura is one of our finest tutors, teaching our young people how to chant, how to read from our prayer book. And we think about all of these beautiful words that we find in the story of creation.
So I don't have to read Torah.
When those words come together and watch that happen for every young person, it's as though we are watching creation happen each and every time. And to watch Laura teach is to watch creation take place. So thank you, Laura, for being one of our finest teachers.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. Elohim called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plant yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yesher koach. Beautiful Torah reading. It's so wonderful to hear these words also chanted in the English. It gives you a sense of often what it might feel like, and for those who were fluent in these words thousands of years ago, to hear them chanted so beautifully. Thank you, Cantor. It's also a joy now to call upon those who are going to lift and bind our Torah scroll. It's a joy now to call upon Shai Weiss and Lil Teplinsky, who's going to be dressing our Torah. We are going to turn now to page 246. That's page 246, and rise together. We stand before the tree of life, source of our strength, our comfort, our challenge, our call to holiness. We stand before the tree of life, our Torah, ancient yet ever renewed. Its message is for all people. Its words speak to all generations. Its truths endure and give hope. Like those who came before us, we carry the Torah in our midst and hold it close. For those who will come after, we preserve and cherish its teachings. This is the Torah, our gift, our blessing, our responsibility. In reverence and gratitude, we stand all of this day before the tree of life.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. La 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 la
You may be seated. Yes, you may be seated. And we turn now to our Haftorah. Our Haftorah for today can be found on, hold on one second, on page 338. Page 338. It's always a joy to hear our Haftorah so beautifully read by Roger Karp. Roger is one of our finest teachers that we have here at Congregation Shalom. And he instills within young people not only knowledge of their Judaism, but invites questions and invites our young people to challenge and to be able to find their own path through the words of our tradition. And it's meaningful that Roger's going to be teaching my daughter this year. So I'll continue to say nice things to you, Roger. That's great. Well, we are turning once again to our Haftorah. Our Haftorah for today can be found on page 338. It is Isaiah chapter 55, beginning on verse 6.
Rabbi, thank you for your kind words, and what an honor to be on the bima following Emily and Melanie, whom I had the honor of teaching. I'm really, really proud. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ritzav divreihem hane'emarin be'emet Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah uv Moshe avdo uv Yisrael amo uvinviei ha'emet v'tzedek Dirshu Adonai behimatzo kirauhu Bioto karov, Ya'azov Rasha darko, V'ishavein machshevotav, V'yashov el Adonai, V'rachamehu, V'el Eloheinu, Ki arbelis loach, ki lo machshavotai machshavotechem, velo darchechem derachai, neum Adonai. Ki gavehu shamayim me'aretz kein gavehu derachai midarchechem umachshavotai mimachshavotechem Ki Asher yered הגשם והשלג מן השמיים, ושמה לא ישוב, כי אם הרווה את הארץ, והולידה והצמיחה, ונתן זרע לזורע, ולחם לאוכל. כן יהיה דברי אשר יצא מפי, לא ישוב אלי ריקם, כי אם עשה את אשר חפצתי, והצליח אשר שלחתיו. כי בשמחה תצאו, ובשלום תובלון, ההרים והגבעות יפצחו לפניכם רינה, וכל עצי השדה ימחאו כף. תחת הנעצוץ יעלה בראש, תחת הסרפד יעלה הדס, והיה לאדוני לשם, להיות עולם לא יכרת. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל עמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום הזיכרון הזה שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ויום הזיכרון.
Yasher Koach.
Toda, and our service continues on page 259.
But before that, thank you so much, Roger, for your beautiful chanting this morning. You are a dedicated member of our community. Thank you for your leadership on our board, as well as the contributions you have made to our next generation through your teaching in our religious school. You are teaching our next generation not only love and respect of Torah, but also how to be the highest of mensches.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
We continue on page 263 with our shofar service. We'll read responsively. A messenger from another time, a stranger here in our midst, the shofar sounds remembrance. Remember, wherever you go, I am with you. After the flood and the wake of destruction, Noah discovered the rainbow.
Alone on a mountain, a knife in his hand, Abraham heard the voice of compassion.
At the end of her strength, afraid for her child, Hagar found a well in the wilderness.
Remember, wherever you go, I am with you.
In sounding the horn, we summon them back. Zichronot, memories of those who saw signs of your presence.
A rock gives forth water. Hope can blossom in the desert.
And when loving hands lighten our darkness, you are there.
When we are caught in the thicket, feel alone or forgotten, the shofar sounds remembrance.
From the deep well of the past, in the depths of our own despair, the shofar sounds remembrance. Remember, my presence goes with you and will lighten your burden. We turn to page 267. Eloheinu ve'Elohe avotenu ve'imotenu, zochrenu b'zichron tov lefanecha. God of remembrance, remember the covenant of our ancestors. We reaffirm it today. Remember, we are a people of noble ideals. Help us attain them. Remember all your people, all the nations on the road to peace. Bless their efforts. Remember with mercy the binding of Isaac, the sorrow of Sarah, Abraham's words, Hineni, here I am. Ki zocher kol hanishkachot atahu me'olam ve'ein shichecha lifnei chisei chvodecha. Our memory fades, but you remember all that we have forgotten. Your presence is a throne where all things matter and nothing is lost. Baruch atah Adonai zocher habrit. Blessed are you, Adonai. You remember the covenant. You remember us. Please rise. Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah. The prophet said, "Cry aloud, lift up your voice like a shofar." This is the meaning of the verse, "See yourself as a shofar, an instrument of the divine. Do not take pride in your virtue or the power of your deeds. With every mitzvah you do, every act of intellect, goodness, and love, God's Spirit breathes through you." We continue on page 269 at the bottom. Let the wishes of our lips, our heart's desire, be pleasing before you, God Most High. You are knowing and attentive, watchful and aware when we call out, Tekiah. Lovingly, favorably, receive our prayers of Zichronot. We turn to page 267.
And now it's a joy to call upon Sandra Soref, who is going to be opening our Ark curtain. We remain standing as we return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. Yahalu et Shem Adonai ki nizgav shmo levado. All praise God's name, for God's name alone is truly sublime.
Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomecha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu kekedem.
You may be seated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first day in the afterlife. You were all, simply put, good people. But how do we know that you were good? How are we sure? During your time on earth, every one of your actions had a positive or negative value depending on how much good or bad that action put into the universe. Every sandwich you ate, every time you bought a magazine, every single thing you did had an effect that rippled out over time and ultimately created some amount of good or bad. You know how some people pull into the breakdown lane when there's traffic and they think to themselves, who cares? No one's watching. We were watching. Surprise! Anyway, when your time on earth is ending, we calculate the total value of your life. If it measures good enough to outweigh the bad, you get sent here, to the good place. This speech is given by Michael, the architect of the good place, in the television show of the same name. During the month of Elul, we led a series on the good place and the book, The 7 Questions You're Asked in Heaven, based upon our Jewish textual tradition. It was a deep dive into how we live our lives and by which measures we assess them. The main characters in the good place struggle to come to terms with the lives they led, playing out on a grand scale the internal dialogue we experience during the High Holy Days. While their time on earth has come to an end, we strive to improve ourselves in the time that we have left. Over the month of Elul, I also read a book called The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich, which explores a similar vein, following 8 people wrestling with their own mortality in a direct way. How does one measure a life? Is it a matter, as Michael explained, of the sum of good actions equaling more than that of bad actions? Or is it determined by the length of our time here on earth? Is it the responses to the 7 questions our tradition posits will be asked of us at the end of our days? Each year, the High Holy Days present us with the opportunity to evaluate our lives. Within our tradition lies a mechanism that pushes us to reflect on our behavior, the events both positive and negative of the year, and the amount of time and energy we allotted to different pursuits. It asks us to determine if we lived in accordance with our beliefs and values. Based in divine wisdom, our sages designed this framework for reflection that we return to year after year. The month of Elul, turning our attention inward, shining a light on the places where we have missed the mark, then focusing on others as we ask for, grant, and hopefully receive forgiveness. Rosh Hashanah, praying in this beautiful sanctuary, admitting our shortcomings and promising to do better. The Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, putting those promises into practice, a trial run of the year to come. And finally, Yom Kippur, contrite, vulnerable, and sincere, pleading with all our being that we will be inscribed in the book of life for the coming year. The sacred drama our people have participated in for millennia. It demands we take stock of our lives, come face to face with our mortality. It shakes us awake and commands us to consider how we measure our lives. Similar to the point system used in the Good Place, the Jewish scholar Maimonides taught the concept of living as if at every moment the scales of our lives are equally balanced between merit and sin, that the entire world is equally balanced in the same way. If we perform even one sin, we tip the scales toward guilt, bringing destruction. But if we perform one mitzvah, we tip the balance of our own scale and that of the world toward merit. We should live thinking that our next action is the one that will determine the balance for everyone. Each act is a chance to choose goodness. Simple. You do good things, and goodness will fill the earth. You do bad things, and evil will flourish. A person should not lie. It is carved into the tablets above our ark doors. Yet we are taught in Jewish tradition that if a bride asks how she looks on her wedding day, we tell her she is beautiful, even if it is a lie. For a bride is always beautiful on her wedding day. Do we agree that stealing is wrong? What of the father whose child is sick, but living in poverty, he cannot afford the medication that will save his child's life? He breaks into the pharmacy and steals it. Does that tip the scale toward sin or toward merit? A point system, the scales of good and bad seem straightforward until they are not. Rarely do we live in a world of black and white, of virtue and vice. The scales or points may paint an overall picture of how a person lived their life, but on their own, they are not sufficient. So we turn toward the measure to see how it answers the question of how to determine the value of a life. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning to discover exactly how long your life would be. This is the story of the measure. One morning, every adult 22 and older wakes up to discover a beautiful box with the words, "The measure of your life lies within," engraved on the outside with a string inside of it. It does not take experts long to determine that the length of the string corresponds to the length of a person's life. The book follows 8 individuals as they come to terms with their own strings, the strife and division this phenomenon has created in the world, and the consequences, good and bad, that come with intimate knowledge of their mortality. At first, it is utter chaos. Some refuse to look at their strings. Those with the shortest strings grapple with what to do with the small sliver of time remaining, some closing up shop to travel or spend time with family. The long stringers breathe a sigh of relief, though their long life is not a guarantee of ease or comfort. Some short stringers are left by partners with long strings who are too devastated to continue loving someone they will outlive by many years. A number of people, emboldened by their long strings, engage in reckless, dangerous behavior. One character, Hank, is an emergency department doctor with a short string. He despairs that the work he found so fulfilling, saving lives, was meaningless, that the people he helped were already destined to live on. He meets his end at a protest, attempting to protect others. A young man in his short string support group earnestly tells him, "All those people with the long strings who you thought you saved, you did save them. Their strings were long because you were meant to save them. Their strings were long because of you." Many with longer strings begin to turn on those unlike them. They fear death, distancing themselves from it as much as possible. Laws begin to take effect, limiting the kinds of jobs people with short strings can hold. Combat roles in the military require long strings, forcing those who enlist to open their boxes. It becomes a point of contention in the presidential race, one candidate sharing his long string and asking the others to follow suit, already knowing that his stiffest competition possesses a short string. In response, his fellow candidate names presidents who, though their lives were cut short, served this country with poise and wisdom, navigating extremely difficult situations. John F. Kennedy, Franklin Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln. A worldwide event unites short stringers celebrating their accomplishments. Saved 200 lives in surgery. Raised 3 children on her own. Directed an Oscar-winning film. Earned 2 PhDs. Defended our country. Built an iPhone app. Ran for president. Married his high school sweetheart. Wrote a novel became an uncle, was valedictorian, produced a Broadway show, made people laugh, was a healer, was a good friend. Slowly, the tide begins to turn and people band together to support those nearing the end of their lives. How could a string be the measure of a life? It is merely a tool, not an indictment of character or determinant of value. These are human beings capable of love, laughter, feats of intellect and physical strength, grief and deep sorrow, agents of social change, parents, siblings, friends. No, a life cannot be measured by its length alone. And what of our sages? They proposed 7 questions a person would be asked at the gates of heaven. I want to single out 2 of those 7. Did you get your priorities straight? And were you the best you that you could be? On priorities, the question comes in 2 parts. Did you seek chokhmah, wisdom? Did you learn binah, to understand one thing from another? Rabbi Ron Wolfson melds the 2 questions, giving the interpretation that follows. Were you able to combine your analytical abilities with your hard-won wisdom from experiences in order to make good choices? In other words, were you able to distinguish between what was really important and what was not, and spend your time and energy accordingly? This is, in large part, the practice for this time in the cycle of the Jewish calendar, our annual spiritual checkup. We must examine our priorities and determine if they still fit. Did we focus on our family, biological and chosen? Did our career take center stage? Did we advocate loudly enough for justice? Did we take time to rest, laugh, and enjoy? Take a moment to think of other priorities you hold. I hope that we carry these with us into 5784. Finally, were you the best you that you could be? There's a story about a scholar and tzaddik named Zusha, who on his deathbed, surrounded by his students, wailed uncontrollably. His students tried to comfort him. Zusha, you were almost as wise as Moshe Rabbeinu, almost as kind as Abraham Avinu. Surely you will merit contentment in the world to come. He replied, when I die and appear before the heavenly tribunal, they will not ask me, Zusha, why were you not as wise as Moses or as kind as Abraham? Rather, they will ask me, Zusha, why were you not Zusha? Rather than live up to impossible ideals, we should strive to be the very best version of ourselves, not anyone else. Perhaps this, then, is how we ought to measure our lives. Another episode of The Good Place introduced us to Doug Forsett, the man who figured out the point system for good and bad deeds. Once he discovered it, he spent the rest of his life focused on only doing good deeds to accrue points. It sounds positive in theory, spending the balance of your life contributing good to the world, but Doug took it to an extreme. He lived a life of solitude and self-sacrifice, in which he was terrified to do anything for his own benefit because of how it would affect his point total. He imagined an accountant out there somewhere measuring the value of everything he did. He did only what made other people happy, even if it made him miserable. At one point, Doug stepped on a snail, and completely beside himself, he tried to tape it back together, instantly killing it. To make up for this, he gave it a funeral and walked several hundred miles to hand deliver a donation to the Canadian Mollusk Association in the snail's honor. He lived, if you can even call it that, in fear. So is the point system laid out in the Good Place how one should measure one's life? No. It is not merely dependent upon good deeds outweighing bad deeds. Is it as first understood in the measure by our time on earth? No. It is not in the days, months, and years counted alone. And however complete the wisdom of our sages in asking the 7 questions, the measure of a life extends beyond them as well. There are multiple systems of measurement in our world. In the United States, we use the imperial system, while many other countries utilize the metric system. Our biblical text describes a different system for building measurements when describing the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Here, we measure ingredients in ounces and cups, while in other locales, they use milliliters. In Israel, if you say the room is 70 degrees, they'll laugh at you because they measure temperature in degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. These are some simple examples with mathematical answers. I cannot even begin to tell you the right way to measure a life. There are so many different ways in which we measure our world, so why should our lives be any different? Lives are personal and profound. Our values, beliefs, and ethics guide us, and they are one way that we can measure. But the combination of them is unique to each individual. During the days of awe, our holiest days of the year, may we make time to reflect on both our deeds and our principles. May we contemplate our mortality, and in so doing, align our bodies, minds, and spirits to be our best selves. May we will it into existence in this new year, 5784. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Amen.
Amen. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you stand, where you walk, where you love, where you praise. All of it is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who. It's in her, it's in me, it's in them, it's in you. And it's bitter in the sweet, in the calm, in the storm. All of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. When you hurt, when you heal, when you laugh, when you pray, when you doubt, when you keep, when you give it away. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day. Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk
and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off your unholy ground. One story, one journey, one tapestry we weave. One people, one glory, one legacy we leave. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way. Where you stand, where you walk, where you love, where you praise. All of it is holy ground. Can you feel the holy ground? Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground.
We turn to page 282. You revealed your glory, a presence in a cloud, and a people became holy when you spoke with them. Amid thunder and lightning, you made yourself known. With blasting shofar, you appeared. Together, God revealed to us and to our fathers and mothers before us, God of revelation, play the song of our freedom on the great shofar. Let your banner fly over the gathering of our exiles. Bring back the dispersed. Let those who are scattered find their way home. Let joyful songs of Zion greet us in Jerusalem, your holy city, the place of our people's eternal happiness. We rise and turn to page 284 as we join together in the blessing over the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea kol teruah amo Yisrael, berachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people Israel. Tekiah, shivarim teruah. Tekiah, Tekiah, shivarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, teruah. Tekiah gedolah.
הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך אל רם ונישא. הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך אל רם ונישא. מבין ומאזין, מביט ומקשיב לכל תקיעתנו, ותקבל ברחמים וברצון, סדר שופרותינו.
It's a joy now to call upon Jim and Ken Stein as they have the honor of opening up our ark or curtain and then closing our ark doors as we turn to page 286. page 286 for Aleinu.
Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, la'tei kedula le'yotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'atama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Remain standing now as we turn to Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 292. And in so many ways, Rabbi Kozlowski's beautiful sermon was the perfect introduction to this prayer. As we recite the words Kaddish Yatom, there's no mention of death, only magnified and sanctified is God. And the belief that all of our strings, in a sense, are tied together. And that we know that though there is a measure of our life that will at one day come to an end, we leave legacies on this earth for the next strings to continue, the vibrancy and the color of the string that is attached to it. And so particularly in our minds and our hearts, we think of these dear members of our community for whom we mark the period of Shiva. We think of Helen Motner and Marnie Rabin. To their names too, we add those for whom we mark the period of Shoshim and beyond. We think of Wendy Huber, Lona Ross, Henry Rinsky, Joan Saperstein, Elaine Stoley, and Ren Gollin. If there are names to be added to this list, or if you are commemorating a yahrzeit this week, we do invite you to call those names out loud, or if there's a name that was pronounced differently, we invite you to call those names out loud as we look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who died due to the terrible virus of racism and xenophobia, as well as all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to the sacred words of Kaddish Yatom on page 292 and recite these words together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah. V'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei. B'chayecho u'v'yomecho u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'izman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha brichu. La'ela ul'ela mikol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen, Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. I'm earning all of the Alchet Shechatanu that I can get unfortunately over this period of time. I do not remember who Steve asked to do the announcements.
You know, Rabbi, I don't remember either.
Thank you.
To tell you the truth.
So, if Steve asked you to deliver the announcements to our congregation, I'm going to invite you to rise
May the real announcements person.
Well, maybe that's
please
why I don't
rise.
remember. Okay, so I will read the announcements. So here are our announcements. Erev Yom Kippur services are at 7 p.m. on Sunday, September 24th. On Monday, September 25th, family services begin at 8:45 a.m., followed by the adult service at 10 a.m. There will be 2 study sessions on Yom Kippur afternoon. At 1 p.m., Rabbi Shapiro will discuss the short stories of renowned Yiddish writer and playwright I.L. Peretz. His timeless stories share lessons and values that apply to our lives today. Then at 2 p.m., 3 Congregation Shalom mental health professionals, along with myself and Brian Avner, will discuss the binding of Isaac through the lens of mental health. We will explore how Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah may have been feeling through the story of Isaac's near sacrifice, as well as the way they might be approaching it depending on what age of life they may be in. We'll be celebrating Sukkot. I don't want to pick favorites, but my favorite holiday, on Friday, September 29th, with a service in the Sukkah, and also Saturday in the morning. Where did Eli go? All right, well, he's becoming bar mitzvah as well on that Saturday. And we'll be dancing and singing with the Torahs on Friday, October 6th.
With a klezmer band.
With a klezmer band. It's going to be so fun, and watching the Torah unwound around our congregation is truly spectacular. It's beautiful.
Good plug.
If you need a copy of the High Holiday Service schedule, please pick one up at the table at the back of the room as you leave. The service schedule can also be found in the September Shofar and is on Congregation Shalom's website. One other announcement, there are bags that are at the back of the room. We invite you to bring them back filled with non-perishable food items, and that will be given to the Jewish Food Bank and I believe another food bank. 2 food banks will be delivering too. The Norman Ethel Gill Scholar in Residence Weekend begins on October 13th. Dr. Dean Bell, President and CEO of Spertus Institute for Jewish Learning and Leadership, will be this year's guest. On Friday night, he'll be speaking about Judaism and resilience, lessons for the 21st century. On Saturday, during Torah study, he will talk about Judaism and the environment from the beginning, understanding nature and human responsibility. And after the service on Saturday morning, Dr. Bell will lead a lunchtime study session entitled Interrogating Tradition as Meaning-Making. The Sanford J. Ettinger Memorial Lecture will be on Friday, November 17th, and our guest speaker will be Meg Kissinger, and she will be discussing her new book, While You Were Out, and the book describes her family's struggle with mental health and our country's flawed system of mental health care. There's the announcement. Jewish Community Pantry. Yeah, and you can bring back the full bag on Yom Kippur. Finally, if you're not a member and have enjoyed our Rosh Hashanah services, those of you who are watching on YouTube, please do consider giving Congregation Shalom a chance to make your membership meaningful to you. So please do support us with your membership, or if it's something that you find in your heart would like to make a contribution or donation, please do so. We want to wish you all a Gemar Chatima Tova. May you all be inscribed for a good and happy and a joyous year. We are now going to conclude our service with the singing of Ein Keloheinu and one more sounding of the shofar. We invite you all to rise now as we turn to page 299. Thank you to our cantor for all the beautiful music he provides us, but also for the soulful way he connects us with the divine throughout this holiday season and beyond throughout the year. We turn to page 299. Let's sing joyously together. We don't have the choir here this morning, but you are the choir, so please sing loudly.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Tikia Gedola.
Koach Shana Tova.
Perfect sermon. Beautiful sermon.
Baruch Tiah.